Shalom and welcome to Temple Talk. This is Yitzchak Rubin speaking to you from just east of Jerusalem. Today, the seventh day of Adar Rishon of the first Adar, 5782, February 8th, 2022. This coming Shabbat we read Parashat Tetzaveh from the book of Exodus, beginning chapter 27, verse 20, concluding chapter 30, verse 10. Again, we're in the first month of Adar. We have two Adars this year, an extra 13th month. I will start to talk about the number 13 at the end of last show. It's considered in some cultures a bad luck 13. I'm not sure why. I never really studied that, but in Judaism, it's a very, very wonderful number. First of all, as I'm going to be repeating myself, and I'll do it quickly so we can move on, but there's the 13th attributes of mercy, of God's rachamim, his mercy, his loving kindness. When Moshe, after the sin of the golden calf, and after he approaches God and asks for forgiveness of Israel, he asked God that he could see his glory, his being, and God says, "You can see me from behind as I will pass by," and he sees. And it's in Exodus, and it's recorded that he saw God's his loving kindness, his mercy. There's a list of different words. I don't have it right in front of me. I don't want to waste time now looking for it. And our sages have taken that list, that sentence, and broken up into 13 different attributes of God's loving kindness, God's mercy toward man. And my point is simply that 13 is a very positive number. Because when we hear 13, as a Jew hears the number 13, they think of God's loving kindness, God's attributes of mercy. We also think of the word ahava, love, which has the numerical value of 13, as does the word echad, meaning one. So, when two hearts become one, that's love. And 2 times 13 is 26, and 26 is the numerical value of the ineffable name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, God's most precious name that we don't say, we don't pronounce. That is 2 times 13, 2 times Ahava. And it comes up in other places as well. But 13, it's a wonderful number in Jewish tradition, very positive number. So the next time you have an appointment with somebody on the 13th floor, and I know sometimes in buildings in America, they don't have 13th floor. They go from 12 to 14. Or you have a date on the 13th. Think of the positive connotation that the number 13 has in Jewish lore, in Hebrew. Today is the 7th day of Adar, first Adar. Now, as we've said before, all the special days of Adar, Purim, and the special Torah readings all take place in Adar Sheni, 2nd Adar, which is next month. And the 7th of Adar is actually the birthday of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Moses. And it's also his Yortzeit. It's also the day of his leaving this earth. He was born and died on the same day. It's a traditional Jewish concept that the righteous are born and die. They enter this earth and they leave this world on the same day, meaning their years are complete. They've completed their years with their righteousness. So Moshe was born on the 7th. We will be marking that day next month because, again, even a birthday or an official birthday or day of passing is marked in the 2nd Adar, not the 1st. Other righteous individuals, for example, King David, he was born on the 6th of Sivan, which is Shavuot, and he also died on the 6th of Sivan. Righteous man, his years were complete. Getting back now down to this week's Parashat Tetzaveh, it's a very beautiful parasha. Again, we're in the middle of God's description to Moshe on the top of Mount Sinai of the tabernacle. All its features, all its vessels, all its curtains and its dividers and its everything, the altars, the menorah, the table of the showbread, etc., etc. It's all being described now in great detail. And the description of the tabernacle and its vessels and the building and construction of the tabernacle is what's going to take us all the way through the end of the book of Exodus, with only an occasional short departure from God's great plan to inspire Israel to create a space on this earth, in our society, amongst us, where God's presence can dwell. We talked about that at length last parsha. And again, since we're talking about building a sanctuary, which when God says to Israel, when he said to Israel, again in last parsha, Asudi Mikdash, he used the term Mikdash, which we translate today as temple. And then he says, V'shachanti b'tocham, and I will dwell within them. To dwell is the root of the Hebrew word mishkan for tabernacle. So in Hebrew, tabernacle, mishkan means dwelling place. And mikdash literally means a sanctified area, a place that's set apart. So they can be interchangeable, but usually when we refer to the mishkan, we're talking about the tabernacle in the desert and the tabernacle that moved from place to place throughout a few hundred years after Israel entered into the land of Canaan, later Israel, and up until when King Solomon built the first temple, which replaced the Mishkan / tabernacle in Jerusalem. And from then on, it's been Mikdash. I just want to remind everybody, especially you podcast listeners, and I think we're getting more and more podcast listeners these days, we are the Temple Institute. We are located in Jerusalem, in the old city of Jerusalem. We have a tarucha, an exhibit in the old city of Jerusalem, where we display all the various temple vessels that we have recreated, that are recreated in strict accordance with the Torah descriptions that we're reading these days, as well as the traditional understanding of those descriptions handed down by our sages over the millennia, ready for use, fit and ready for use in a rebuilt Holy Temple, which is our raison d'etre, which is our goal, is to ultimately help to midwife, shall we say, the building of the Holy Temple. I say help to midwife because it's not a Temple Institute project. It's not a private project. And it's not even, a project of a few very zealous people or a segment of the population. It's really a project of the entire nation of Israel in coordination and in total ti'um, total collaboration with the world, because I don't think it's going to get built any other way. I do not believe that the third temple is going to be built in spite of anybody's opposition. I think everybody will see. You call me crazy. I think everybody, the great religions, the great philosophers, we're all going to come together and see that this is what the world needs, because we all agree there's one God, and we all agree that the Temple Mount is a holy spot. So to create a place for all of us that we can approach God in that place, pray to God, worship God as equals, I don't think is as far-fetched as we might sometimes seem to us. That's my dream, that's my hope. But in any case, the Temple Institute is dedicated to taking every practical step we can take toward facilitating the building of the Holy Temple. That's why we have recreated the vessels. So when, 35 years ago, before the Temple Institute began, people could say, well, yeah, we want to build a temple. We don't even know how to build the vessels yet. So mañana, we'll do it tomorrow. No, we've done it. We've built the vessels. We are working on growing a red heifer, and there are new developments in that endeavor, in that we're expanding our efforts to increase the number of cattle that we have involved in giving birth to a red heifer. I'll have more to say about that in upcoming weeks. But yes, don't talk about it all the time, because I don't like to. I like to talk about it when really I have something new and exciting to share. But I know that people always want to hear about the red heifer. So yes, we haven't forgotten about the red heifer, and we are in contact with many people and taking steps to facilitate the birth and the grooming of a red heifer. So that would be one more thing on our checklist that we can say we're prepared. But again, the biggest stumbling block toward building the Holy Temple is in our hearts. It's in ourselves. Are we really ready for it? Do we really want it? I know that many of you people that are listening really want it. I know that. And I really want it. And I think there are a lot of people that really want it but don't know they really want it because they don't understand it yet, because they've heard things that it's antiquated, it's primitive, it's sort of goes against the whole flow of history, where things have become more cosmopolitan, more spiritual and less physical. People look at it that way. Or people say, well, the Temple Mount, every time I read an article, it says, it's a tinderbox, it's a powder keg ready to explode. It's the most, volatile area in the entire Middle East. And this is, unfortunately, a very easy expression that journalists like to use. It's one of those things they tag onto any headline or any description of the Temple Mount. It's not that way. Yes, there are elements. There are radical elements. There are radical Muslim elements. The same list of villains that you know who they are the ones who are always try to use the Temple Mount as a way to promote violence. But day to day, by and large, Temple Mount is a quiet place, and a place where Jews are on it 5 days a week, when we are allowed by the current restrictions to be on the Temple Mount. And Muslims are on it 7 days a week. And the Muslims may or may not appreciate Jewish presence on the Temple Mount. But, 99 out of 100 days, it goes by peacefully without a confrontation. And I also suspect deep down that many Muslims don't mind that Jews are on the Temple Mount praying. I mean, why anybody would mind that somebody's on the Temple Mount praying is beyond me. But anyway, all I'm saying is I'm a dreamer. But my dreams being aside, the Temple Institute is working day and night to bring that day closer. And again, practical things, educational things, many books in Hebrew and English, even some books in French and German, and some other languages, I believe. Many articles, videos, all sorts of things. Obviously, if you follow us on social media, you're aware of it. If not, and this is the first time you're listening to Temple Institute, you can find our website, templeinstitute.org. We have a Temple Institute Facebook page. We have Temple Institute on Instagram, a Twitter account, a YouTube channel. It has millions and millions, over 11 million views, hundreds and hundreds of videos. And we have broken into the podcast realm of the of the internet media this year. Temple Talk, which has traditionally been posted as a video on YouTube, even though it's just a radio show, is now also appears on Spotify, on Deezer, and also on Facebook. Facebook now features podcasts, and we see, it seems to us that people are also listening to us on Apple Podcasts. We're still trying to learn the medium and negotiate how to find out for sure. So if you happen to be listening to us on Apple Podcasts, then please send us a message. so we can know. Again, we have begun our Truma 2022 campaign. Truma, of course, was last week's name of last week's Torah reading. Truma is a donation. In last week's Parsha, God is asking Moshe to ask the people to, if their heart moves them, to give generously toward the materials toward the building of the tabernacle. And we are asking you, if your heart moves you, to give generously toward the work of the Temple Institute, again, whose goal is the building of the Holy Temple here in Jerusalem, a house of prayer for all nations, a meetup place between man and God, between man and man, where we can all stand as equals before HaShem and worship with brotherhood. And what better way to live in this world together than to worship the one God, give thanks to the one God, and as we're doing it, be able to be brothers and sisters in that special place, the Holy Temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Parashat Titzaveh, which means you shall command. Titzaveh. Again, I always like to say that Titzaveh, mitzvah, is translated as a commandment. We also know that mitzvah today is also translated as a good deed. But it's a commandment is a good deed, and because if you do something good, you're basically fulfilling a commandment to be a good person. So it's a mitzvah. In slang, a mitzvah is a good deed. Do a good deed. Do a good deed. Do a mitzvah. I like to point out that litzavot, the root, Hebrew root for the word mitzvah, also has the meaning to connect. So any mitzvah is a connection. It's a connection between us and God, and it's a connection between us and others, our neighbors. So a mitzvah, always think connection. You want to connect to God? Do a mitzvah. You want to connect to other people? Do a mitzvah. It's a surefire way of making connections. And we all like to be well connected. And I can't think of a better connection than the connection to HaShem, and I can't think of a better connection than a connection to the person standing next to us, the person that we meet walking down the street, on the bus, in the office. Make a connection, do something positive. And again, the Torah is a body of work that contains within it 613 different mitzvot, 613 different ways of connecting. Some of those 248 of those ways of connecting are positive things that the Torah recommends. You want to connect? Do this. And 365 things that the Torah says, you want to connect? Don't do this. There are more negative commandments than positive commandments. And by the way, a very, very, very large majority of those positive commandments have to do with the temple. So without a temple, without an active priestly class, there are literally over 200 commandments that we can't fulfill. What a shame. 200 commandments, methods of connecting to HaShem that we simply, at this point in our lives, at this point in our history, we just cannot fulfill. So hopefully soon we will be able to correct that and have those extra 200 plus opportunities to connect with our Creator and with our fellow man. Okay, Parashat Tetzaveh, Exodus chapter 27, verse 20. V'ata, HaShem is speaking to Moshe on the top of Mount Sinai. They're in their 40 days together. First time Moshe's gone up, 40 days alone, and the Torah is giving us this exclusive. I can never get over this. We're like a fly on a wall. If there were a fly on a wall on the top of Mount Sinai, it seems sort of not the right thing to say, but we're able to listen in on this private conversation between Hashem and Moshe. I mean, it's mostly Hashem talking, but we're able to listen in on it. And I think that there's a reason why the Torah includes us on this conversation. And I think we're going to learn that reason in next week's parsha. But let's begin with Hashem's words to Moshe. V'ata titzaveh et bnei Yisrael v'yikchu elecha shemen zayit zach katit lamaor laha'alot ner tamir ba'ol moed mihutz laparochet asher ala idut ya'aroch oto Aaron uvanav me'erev ad boker lifnei Adonai chukat olam l'dorotam me'ed bnei Yisrael. V'ata הקרב אליך את אהרון אחיך ואת בניו איתו מתוך בני ישראל, לקחנו לי אהרון נדב ואביהו אלעזר ואיתמר בני אהרון. ועשית בגדי קודש לאהרון אחיך, לכבוד ולתפארת. ואתה תדבר אל כל חכמי לב אשר מלטיב רוח חוכמה, ועשו את בגדי אהרון לקדשו לקחנו לי. ואלה הבגדים אשר יעשו חושן ואפוד ומעיל וכתונת תשבץ מצנפת ואבנת, ועשו בגדי קודש לאהרון אחיך ולבניו לקחנו לי, והם ייקחו את הזהב ואת התכלת ואת האגמן ואת תולעת השני ואת השש. Okay, in English. And you, Moshe, and you shall command the children of Israel that they shall take for you pure olive oil pressed for illumination, to kindle a lamp continually. That, of course, is the menorah. In the tent of meeting, outside the partition that is near the testimonial tablets. The partition, of course, is in Hebrew, the parochet. It's the curtain that divides the kodesh, the sanctuary, where the menorah and the showbread tables stand, from the kodesh HaKodeshim, the Holy of Holies, which has the testimonial tablets. The Aaron, the Ark of the Covenant, has the tablets which haven't been placed yet, because Moshe has not yet received them. They will be placed inside the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, Aaron and his sons shall arrange it from evening until morning, meaning the menorah, the lamps. They're lit each day. The lamps, 7 lamps are lit each day before Hashem, an eternal decree for their generations from the children of Israel. Now you, speaking to Moshe still, now you bring near to yourself Aaron your brother and his sons with him from among the children of Israel, Aaron, Nadav, and Avihu, Elazar, and Itamar, the sons of Aaron, to minister to me. L'chachanoli, the word kohen, from the same word l'chachanoli, means to minister, means to serve, to do the avodah. The avodah is a service in the mikdash, in the holy temple. That's the root of the word kohen, and someone whose last name is Kohen, 99 out of 100 times, he is a direct descendant of Aaron, the first Kohen Gadol, the first high priest who's mentioned here, and his sons. And I say 99 out of 100 times because if a Kohen marries a non-Jew, or Kohen marries there's certain, we'll learn later on, there's a few forbidden marriages within the family of Jews that a Kohen cannot marry and maintain his rank as a Kohen. So he could maintain the name as a last name, but he would no longer be an active serving Kohen. But like I say, that's rare. And there are a bunch of names today that are usually Kohen. Maybe we'll talk about it at a different time, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I think the name Rappaport is usually a Kohanic name, as is Azulai, and others. But in any case, I keep interrupting myself. Right? You shall bring near to yourself Aaron your brother, to minister to me. You shall make vestments of sanctity for Aaron your brother, for glory and splendor. And you shall speak to all the wise-hearted people to whom I have invested with a spirit of wisdom, and they shall make the vestments of Aaron to sanctify him to minister to me. These are the vestments that they shall make: a breastplate, an ephod, a robe, a tunic of a box-like knit, a turban, and a sash. They shall make vestments of sanctity for Aaron your brother and his sons to minister to me. They shall take the gold, the turquoise, purple, and scarlet wool, and the linen. Okay, we're going to stop there. So much is contained in these few verses, not simply so much information, but so much meaning, so much insight, so much import. I've talked about this before. I wrote about it earlier in the week and posted it on the website, but I'm going to talk about it again because I just don't think we can talk about it enough. It's just so important. Going back to this verse 28 chapter 1. Now you bring near to yourself Aaron your brother, Achicha, your brother. The word ach in Hebrew means brother. It happens to also mean to mend or to unite, to bring together. Echad is quite similar to ach, right? It just has the dalet added to it. Echad means one. L'achid means also to unite. But ach means to unite. L'achot is to mend a wound. And an ach, by the way, an ach and an achot, which is a sister, also is a nurse, a male nurse or a female nurse in Hebrew. What do? What do nurses do? They mend people. By the way, in last week's parsha, when it's mentioning the curtains that make up the walls that surround the Mishkan, the tabernacle, that make up the walls of the courtyard, which creates the inner courtyard that is right before the tabernacle. The separate curtains are called yiriot, singular, yiriot plural, which is Hebrew has male and female, like many languages. It has certain nouns are male, certain nouns are female. I know that in the woke world we're supposed to lose all that, but it is so precious, and it's so important, and it's so meaningful. But in any case, what I find so beautiful, it's so subtle, but it's so beautiful that in describing these yiriot, that they're all interconnected. One sort of overlaps the other, and they're connect one to the other. That's how it creates a wall. They're on these wooden pillars. All these things are in last week's parsha. We're instructed to how to make them, very precise information. And they are referred to in Hebrew in those verses as achot, as sisters. So these curtains are all sisters and are all connected to one another. So the picture I get are sisters, with arms interlocked. And it's a message of unity. It's a message of coming together, creating a wall, a sanctified space, not simply with curtains, with the beautiful woven fabric of the curtains, with the precious dyed threads, and I mean, that in itself is beautiful. But when we imagine that they are sisters and interlocked, arm in arm, and that's how we create a sanctified space, by joining together. And again, many people will say, what do we need a mikdash for? What do we need a temple for? I got a temple inside me. And they're right. We all need to create a space inside ourselves, a pure space where God can enter and feel welcome and inspire us and lift us up and guide us. But as communities, as nations, as peoples, and as humanity, we need a space that we can share. And we do that by becoming one. And I think the description of those curtains, those interlocking curtains that create the sanctified area around the tabernacle, being described as sisters, is just such a beautiful, beautiful message that we need to take in and focus. Here, Aaron is described as Moshe's brother, and twice, not just once, but twice, right? Because in the verse later, you shall make vestments of sanctity for Aaron, your brother. Again, a theme that I like to harp on, the theme of brothers in the Torah. Brothers and brotherhood is such an important thing to HaShem. We know that, from Cain and Abel, there's been enmity, there's been bad blood between brothers. And nothing tormented HaShem more than that. Where's your brother? Am I my brother's keeper? God heard the blood of Abel crying out from the earth. And man without brotherhood, brothers who can't work together, we can't go anywhere. We can't move forward. So the entire book of Genesis is all about relationships between brothers. With Cain and Abel, we have Yitzchak and Ishmael, the sons of Abraham, who had to be separated because Ishmael was tormenting Yitzchak. We have the sons of Yitzchak, Esav and Yaakov, Esav and Jacob, who were constantly struggling, power struggles, and arguing and deceiving, etc., etc. And then, of course, we have the classic confrontation of brothers between Yosef and his brothers, which practically led to homicide and led to being sold into slavery. And again, the big accomplishment, the big step forward by the close of the book of Genesis was the rapprochement, was the reuniting of Yosef and his brothers. The brothers came clean. They understood. They confessed their crime. They asked for forgiveness. Yosef gave them forgiveness, and they were achim again. They were brothers. They were united again. They were achid, one. And that's how the book of Genesis closes. And as the book of Exodus begins, we have the wonderful passage where Moshe is told by HaShem that Aaron will be his voice to speak to Pharaoh, and they will meet in the wilderness. And Aaron meets him, and he gives him a kiss. And Aaron isn't jealous of Moshe, the fact that Moshe, his younger brother, got the calling from HaShem. Aaron embraces Moshe. He works with Moshe. He's the perfect brother. And that is why he's the Kohen Gadol. That's why he's the perfect Kohen, because he is our brother. He's everybody's brother. And we clothe him with glory. I'm rushing now because I'm running out of time. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll pick it up again next week. But we give him clothes, holy, sanctified clothes of glory and splendor, of kavod and tiferet, because we love him, because we want him to be wonderful, because that's how we show our love for him, by showing him how special he is. And in return, he shows us how special we are. We're all part of our own. We're all part of the Kohen Gadol. We're all connected. We're all his brother. And when he stands before HaShem in the temple, in the Holy of Holies, he is standing there on our behalf, representing us. He's standing there before HaShem as our brother, as our equal. He's no better than us. He has no special powers. He has no superpowers. He doesn't have greater insight or what have you, or nevuah, prophecy, than any of us. He's one of us. He's equal to us, but he is there for us. He's our brother, and this is what HaShem wants. He wants all of us to stand before him as equals, as brothers, and he's everybody's brother. He's Moshe's biological brother, to be sure, but he's everybody's brother. And God willing, when we have a holy temple and we have a high priest, a Kohen Gadol, the whole world will feel that closeness, because the whole world will be 1 degree, as it were, away from the Kohen Gadol. We're all brothers. We all came from Adam, and we are every bit as much brothers as Cain and Abel, but we have the ability to rectify Cain's misdeed. We have the ability to rectify the animosity that plagued the children, the brothers of the patriarchs, of the Avot, of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We have the ability to overcome that, and God is created this, asking us to create this space, this little Garden of Eden, this little universe in which God can dwell, and we can come close, and as one, brothers, united, we can be with God, we can meet with God, we can hear from God, we can talk to God, and we can be with one another. To me, that's a beautiful vision worth pursuing. It's never too late. I'm just loving it. Thank you so much for being with me. Temple Talk.